right. Okay, so I want to hear from you guys regarding this activity. Oh, yay, that was so fun. Okay, good. That was fun. I'm glad to hear that feedback. What else? What else did you guys think of the word scramble? Yeah? It's a forceful way, she said, to make yourself remember.
Color drawing, so we got the big words right.
Good, yeah. Yes.
And this phrase, and this phrase, and this phrase, but they were like all...
Yes. Okay, that's a good point. Did anybody else kind of mix up phrases, like have them out of order? Yes.
I was remembering where all my pictures were.
That's good. Good. That's awesome.
Pretty sure this one was green.
Yes. I know a couple of y'all were like, we have an extra it. Where's this go? You know, like, what's happening right now?
Are you sure you gave us all the ones?
I know, exactly. Like, she wrote some extra words in here just to trick us. Okay, good. So I hope that from doing this activity, you guys can see how this could be helpful for memorizing, because it really does, as Victoria said, forcefully make you know all the words in the scripture. So I will say, yeah, if you guys want to gather up the cards, you can do that. But one thing I do want to say is you guys have literally only had like maybe 2 hours with this scripture, and I just asked you to do this kind of hard activity with this really long scripture. So don't feel discouraged or anything, because this was all brand new, but you guys did awesome. And I love how you're already using like some of the other techniques to help you with another technique. Okay, so great job. So this is, like I said, this is one that I do with my kiddos. Thank you. And super helpful for me, and really good to just help you guys drill down on knowing every single word in the scripture. So, okay, so what we're going to do now is we are going to move on to our kinesthetic meditation technique, okay? And I've kind of dubbed this the meditation flow chart. And because this technique requires you to get up and move around by taking you through questions on a flow chart. So this starts on page 74 in your workbooks. So if you want to see kind of a closer up version, this is where like the technique instructions start, and you can find it all there. So let me just give this is kind of like how I gave you the basic structure of a mind map. I want to give you the basic structure of a flow chart. So what is a flow chart? Well, it's a diagram of the sequence of movements or actions involved in a system or activity. And it's basically a graphic or symbolic representation of a process. Okay, so that's basically what the overarching definition of what a flow chart is. Now, I've taken some liberties, as I did with the mind mapping, to tailor this toward what we're doing with trying to meditate on Scripture, okay? So this meditation flow chart can be an effective technique to consider, and this is the same question I mentioned before, but how our lives reflect this Scripture. Remember, if it's a command in Scripture, that's a great foundational question to start with when you are trying to meditate on Scripture, is how do I see this in my life? How am I living this out? Am I living this out? Okay, these are all good questions to start with, okay? So let me... If you guys will flip to, do I want to go here yet? Maybe not. Let's not go here just yet. Okay, so here's what's going to happen. In just a minute, we're going to turn on the music, and you guys are going to kind of pick a path to go down, okay? I'm going to give you the overarching question. You're going to do an answer. Now, normally with the flow chart, I think there's an example on page 76. Like this gives you an example. Does the computer turn on? Yes or no? And then you follow your path. And then I ask another question. And then you, based on the answer, you follow that path. Okay, and you can kind of bounce back and forth to different places in the flow chart depending on your answers. Well, the difference in our version of what we're doing with our meditation flow chart is that you're going to answer the question I'm going to give you here in just a minute, and you're going to stay on that same path, okay? So my question for us today as we start meditating on this is does my life reflect Jeremiah 17, 7 through 8? Can you read that scripture and say, yes, I am a tree planted by water. My leaves remain green. Or do you read that and think, oh, there is very little about this that describes my life right now? Or do you read it and say, well, sometimes I can describe myself this way, sometimes I don't, okay? Well, those are your three options, yes, no, or sometimes. Does my life reflect Jeremiah 17, 7 through 8, okay? And here's what's going to happen. If you say sometimes my life reflects it, you're going to start right here. You're going to bring up a pen or a marker, colored pencil, whatever you want, and you're going to write your answer to these questions that are on these sticky notes, okay? Now, sometimes people are in green, and you're going to notice it's color coordinated, partially because I love that, but also it just helps practically speaking, okay? So if you sometimes feel like your life reflects the scripture, you're going to start down here, and you're going to work your way through the flow chart answering these questions. If you read the scripture and you say, yes, 100%, I do feel that I trust in God and I'm like a tree planted by the water. You're going to start back here with this purple, yes. And then you're just going to move your way down to the sticky note right here, okay? If you feel like, man, no, I am struggling, I really don't feel like my life reflects this right now, then you're going to start right here under the note, and then you're just going to take these questions and walk all the way down. You're going to write your answers on the sticky note. A few things that I want to say about this. Because this is a public exercise, right? You're writing your responses on the papers. Just keep that in mind with whatever you write. I want you to be honest, but just to the extent you feel comfortable. The other thing I want to say is that I really want us, as people get up and choose, because this is kind of a brave thing to do, I would just love for us to be able to look at the people who say yes and celebrate them and say, wow, like that's awesome. I'm so glad that you feel like you're planted right now. And, maybe what can I learn from that person instead of looking at them and thinking, oh, well, they got pride and they got work to do. Do you know what I'm saying? I also don't want us to look at the people who stand up and say no, and they're like, oh man, she needs help, right? Like we want to have compassion. Because I will tell you, again, I've led this study multiple times at my church. And when I participate in this activity, I have been both yes, and later I was confidently no. Okay, so sometimes it depends on our season, right? I just really want us to have grace for one another right now as we do this, because some people may feel like no, but they don't really want it. It feels embarrassing. And that's how I felt, if I'm being honest, when I was standing in front of these women at my church that I know, that I do community with, and I'm standing up there teaching them. And I had to say, none of this describes my life right now. Okay, so I just want you to know it's okay. Is my message, and that this is a place of compassion and grace. And if you feel yes, good. Don't feel like you're being boastful, prideful. Go for it. And if you're sometimes, which might be the majority of you, then great. You're going to walk through these questions. You're going to take a writing utensil with you, and you're going to consider these questions as we work through. Now, remember, this is our meditation component, okay? So we're diving in deeper. We're really thinking about this scripture. So let me just read it one more time. I have NIV, so I'm going to read this from NIV, but let's keep this as our tone as we enter into this activity. But blessed is the man who trusts in the Lord, whose confidence is in him. He will be like a tree planted by the water that sends out its roots by the stream. It does not fear when heat comes. Its leaves are always green. It has no worries in a year of drought and never fails to bear fruit. So with that, Brandon, will you turn the music on for us? And then I'd like you guys to get up and then walk to the place you feel comfortable. We'll say that the questions are in order, so you'll start at the first one and then just work your way down. I've numbered them on the bottom right, but yeah, great question. They are in order.